As promised, episode 3 of Raw and Real is about this concept of I am. And I'm really excited about this because this was like super life changing. I was recently reading something where somebody was talking about in their favorite holy text, which happens to be the Bible, about this concept where God says, I am. So I'm going to read you that passage, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about that and what God saying I am means for us. And I think that you're really going to be intrigued by this like I was. I really felt like this answered a lot of pieces for me that felt foreign previously. Like, okay, bear with me on this one. So I've had this, from last week, in spirit and in truth, and this knowing that resides in us, and having this knowing for like my whole life, that there's something bigger. There's something more about me as a person. And quite frankly, when you are a young woman raised in the environment that I was raised in, the church that I was raised in, you don't get to question or you don't get to think that there's more to you as a person. When you're tiny, also like physically tiny, that's also a time when a lot of times you don't get to decide or you don't get to imagine or think that there is something bigger and more to your existence. And because the largeness, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so good. The largeness that I was feeling is just remarkable. And it's so big that I kept discounting it my whole life because it didn't feel like I was capable of holding that largeness inside of me. Okay, so my all-time favorite book is the Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd. And I just got really excited when I started talking about largeness because that's a huge concept in her book and it ties right into this. And I'm jacked, so I need to pause this video to go get that book so that I can read you why I'm so jacked about it. And then I'll continue. All right, got the book, very excited. Okay, so again, the Book of Longings by Sue Monk Kidd. Somehow I got the large print version. It was helpful. Okay, so I'm going to read this part. It's like really early on in the book. I'm not going to tell you anything about it, but I'm going to read you. Yes, I am. This book is from the perspective. It's a fiction story. It's a fiction book, and it is from the perspective of the fictional wife of Jesus. Her name is Anna, and she is glorious. I love her. Sue Monk Kidd did a great job in creating the character of Anna, and I love it. So, with that being said, Anna has an aunt who is very eccentric. I love her too. Her name is Yaltha. And she gives Anna this bowl, an incantation bowl. I don't think I said that right. But anyway, she gives her this bowl and she tells her to write a prayer in it. Now, at the time, to write down prayers was like wildly taboo. Like bad news bears. But Anna's like, oh my gosh, like that's wild. The things that there was a belief that the things that you write down as a prayer to God are like, they're legit. Like you better be careful what you write down because they're going to be a thing. So she takes her incantation bowl and she writes these words. Lord our God, hear my prayer, the prayer of my heart. Bless the largeness inside me, no matter how I fear it. Bless my reed pens and my inks. Bless the words I write. May they be beautiful in your sight. May they be visible to eyes not yet born. When I am dust, sing these words over my bones. She was a voice. Bless the largeness inside me, no matter how I fear it. Sing these words over my bones. She was a voice. Oh my gosh. Like, the first time I read this book, obviously I've read it more than once, legit chills. Like, oh man. And I really relate to Anna, like, throughout the whole story, throughout the whole book. But I especially feel these words. And so that kind of goes back to what I was saying before about this concept of I am and how it might expand some things. And like, when I read this new concept on the words I am, and like when God says I am, that new concept that I was given, like, really felt like it just, it filled in all these pieces about this largeness that I felt I have inside me, that the fictional life of Jesus in this book, the Book of Longings, also recognized in herself at a really young age, and I was about the same age really when I recognized this for me, this largeness and this deep desire to have a voice. And in her time, she was not allowed to have a voice. She's a young woman and she's not allowed to have a voice. And that really is the same way that I grew up, which is wild to me because, you know, even though she's a fictional character, like, Sumant Kid did a lot of research to get to what was it like to be a young woman in the day and age of Jesus. And despite those being 2,000 plus years apart, I really feel the same way. So here we go. So this concept of I am, I'm going to read out of Exodus 3. Burning bush, you probably know the deal. God shows up to Moses in the form of a burning bush. They're having this dialogue. God's like, Moses, I need you to go get my people out of Egypt. Moses is like, I'm sorry, what? God's like, I'll be with you. You'll be fine. Go do the thing. And Moses protested, so I'm picking up in verse 13. But Moses protested, if I go to the people of Israel and tell them, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, they will ask me, what is his name? Then what should I tell them? God replied to Moses, I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say this to the people of Israel, Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my eternal name, my name to remember for all generations. Okay. God goes on to say more about, like, go tell them Yahweh sent you. But here's the deal. Moses says a couple things. Moses' initial question is, if I go to them and say, the God of your ancestors has sent me to you, they will ask me, what is his name? What should I tell them? God says, I am who I am. Say this to the people who sent you. I am has sent me to you. Say this to the people of Israel, Yahweh, the God of your ancestors, and then names those ancestors. Okay, so this is what I've been taught. I've been taught that this is, the concept is I am is his name. And I'm not saying that that's not right or that's not true or whatever. But God gives two answers to this question. Who should I tell them sent me? And his first answer is basically, okay, so it's the Hebrew verb to be. And basically God is saying, I don't need an explanation for who I am and who is sending you. You don't need to explain yourself. You need to do the thing I told you to do. I don't need He's basically saying, I as God don't need an explanation. And he recognizes that he's speaking with, you know, an entire nation, and that Moses needs some credibility here. And so he names himself as Yahweh, which is who God has been known to be the whole time. And then he names those specific ancestors that the people of Israel would know, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. that's important because Moses recognizes that Moses needs credibility. And though God is saying, I don't need an explanation to exist. And we, as humans, as human beings created by God, don't need an explanation to exist. He's created us in his image, and we don't need an explanation to exist. So when people ask you, who are you? You might tell them your name, but most of us tell them all of the things that we do after that, or titles that we hold, which is similar to what God does. But what God doesn't do is define himself by the things he does. He says, I don't need an explanation to exist, and here's the credibility. For Moses' sake. Not for his sake, for Moses' sake. He explains to Moses, this is my eternal name, my name to remember for all generations. Because that's how people are going to know that Moses isn't like tripping them out. You know, Moses was raised by the Egyptians, so he doesn't have the best cred in the world. So we're recognizing that Moses needs some, you know, why should we believe you kind of stuff. But man, the thing that struck me is that I don't need an explanation for who I am as a person. I am who I am. And you are who you are because God is who he is. And that's it. And that just like, gosh, that freed me from so much. It took away all of these, well, it wasn't magic. It wasn't immediate. And it's going to take me a long time to continue to step into and accept being and living and existing in I am who I am, because I'm conditioned to explain myself all the time. And I would say that's true for the vast majority of us, but I personally think that that's especially true for women. And dude, I'm over it. I'm just done. So as a person in this world, you don't have to explain yourself. I want to encourage you to try on this living in spirit and in truth and stepping into your identity as yourself. I am who I am. I want to bless the largeness inside of you. And for those of you who are made to have a voice, that when you are dust, that these words would be sung over your bones. They were a voice.